Hey folks, welcome back once again to Indaba Africa. This is Chris coming to you live from Central Pennsylvania. Yes, I do have Rugby Kid on today. I have a USA Rugby warm-up jacket there, so there you go. Well, today, a special feature, once again, my guest today is the candidate for Pennsylvania's 5th Congressional District, which is located just below Philadelphia. You might have heard of Philadelphia this week. You know, the place where people are burning, looting, where the district attorney, who seems to spend his entire career freeing hardened criminals and putting them back on the streets, Larry Krasner, is in the city and threatened the president of the United States yesterday. Did you see that? He threatened the president of the United States by using his official position and abusing his office to issue a threat against the president of the United States, warning the president that in the 18th century, we had a way of getting rid of tyrants, basically. My words, but basically what he said there. So anyway, pretty scary stuff when a district attorney in a city that is out of control and burning threatens the president of the United States with utter nonsense. He should have seen his press release. But in the meantime, today we're talking to my special featured guest, once again, Dasha Pruett. Dasha is a U.S. citizen, and she was a political refugee from the Soviet Union, came to the States at 10 with her parents. Her father famously painted or did a sketch of, I guess, Lenin in a dress. The Soviet authorities didn't take too kindly to that, and they shipped him off to the Gulag. Apparently he went there a second time, if I'm not mistaken, but eventually they got out of the Soviet Union as political refugees and finally landed here in the United States. And then Dasha grew up here in the States. She is a very committed social conservative and a Republican, and she's running against another woman, so a woman will win that race. But anyway, folks, let me welcome her back. She's been on the channel previously. Dasha, here you are. How is it going?
Good. It's home stretch now, 72 hours really. So I'm probably going to wait another couple of weeks before we know what's really happening. Everybody meet Guinevere. She likes to be on my lap during these type of things.
Well, it's quite all right. There's a YouTuber that people know in South Africa who brings his I think he's a boxer or Boston Terrier or something like that on and gets him to howl. So Guinevere is behaving much better than that other dog. So that's fine.
But yeah, it's been amazing. And you're talking about the looting. We actually live 5 miles away from. I don't know if anybody's seen the famous video of the guy actually stealing a washer. He first stole a dolly and then he stole a washer out of the Dollar General here. So people were stealing anything that's not bolted down. Again, it's 5 miles from our house. My husband and I actually drove out one couple of mornings ago to see what was happening. And a lot of the stores did not recover from the last time, so they're already sitting empty. So whatever was left, they looted that. And now 90% of the businesses are completely shut down there. That area is actually a hub for public transportation, for trains, and our public transportation is called SEPTA. So it's for the trains and the buses and the trolleys. And normally around that time, it is packed with people going to work or wherever they're heading. There was, in a radius of probably about 10 blocks, we saw maybe 8 people. So it was completely abandoned. People are exhausted. And the sad thing is, right next to that shopping strip, it's a neighborhood where people live, and it's, middle, lower class families who are already struggling. And now they have to deal with the fear of the riots, the looting, the burning, the unrest. And our mayor told them police to stand down and let them do whatever they wanted. So this is where we are.
Now, does that part of Philadelphia fall within your congressional district you're running for?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. So this is a place that's going to need some help to rebuild, and probably some help with some law and order would be a good start.
Well, my opponent is running on defunding the police. She vocally came out and was saying that. So for these struggling businesses already, who are they supposed to call? They're getting rid of our Second Amendment, right, which is our gun rights. So pretty soon you won't be, if Biden gets into office and if we lose our house, and we already lost our house, but if we don't flip it back, and if we lose our Senate, then we are completely a mess. we're going to become a socialist country. They will get rid of our Second Amendment. They will pack the courts. There will be complete craziness going on. So, but my opponent is running on defunding the police. Her statement actually went something that there should have been a psychiatrist who should have been dealing with this guy swinging the knife who already had a prior record. So that was her solution. And it's just unbelievable about what's going on. So, we got to fight for our country. This is not America as I've known it, I have to say.
Well, listen, I have to jump in here for just a second because I don't want to miss this opportunity. Someone named Lori Latonen says greetings from Finland. So someone from Finland's watching today. Well, I have a special spot in my heart for Finland. I had a pen pal there when I was a young man in high school. We used to write, Hanna Heikkinen used to write back and forth. Of course, that's a Swedish name, not really a Finnish name, but plenty of Swedes in Finland. But yeah, a big fan of Finland, been there many times. And Lori says, greetings from your former neighboring country of Finland. So I couldn't resist that. It's not often we get people from Finland to jump in the show. But very quickly, I've got to say this, before we get into the issues a little deeper there, Dasha. Listen, I've never run for office. I have been a campaign manager, but I was 17 and sprightly and full of piss and vinegar and was able to run that campaign for my college friend who got elected to a city council. Not quite the same as running for U.S. Congress. And I wasn't even eligible to vote, but nonetheless, I was a campaign manager. Anyway, so and he won. But at 17, running a campaign is one thing, and not even as a candidate. I'm sure that running as a candidate is very different today than it's ever been before. I mean, you have the stereotypes of pressing the flesh, kissing the babies, taking photographs, shaking hands. What has it been like in the midst of the Wuhan coronavirus, COVID-19 political hysteria? It must be very different to try to run as a candidate. You can't touch anybody. You can't get close to people. You got to wear a body armor and a face mask. What's it like?
It's been a blessing and a curse. A blessing because we had to, my husband's actually my campaign manager, and he's been awesome. People kind of cock their head and like, how's that working out? But we kind of understand one another and we can speak telepathically. So, and he knows that if I'm tired and cranky, I will be yelling at him. So he kind of gears up for that. But he is a small business owner. We had a wedding photography business. So guess what we haven't done this year?
Take any
we
pictures.
Haven't photographed any weddings. Yes. Actually, we did a couple very small ones and all of them were in masks. So I'm not sure what the point was, but either here or there. But he's very brilliant in marketing, and my background's in art as well. So I'm not too bad, and I'm very observant. I like to watch what's going on. When we were running the primary, and I was the only candidate that actually had a contested primary, so I had an opponent, and we won 63% to 37, which I thought was pretty great. But when we shut down, our initial voting date was supposed to be April 28th. And in our area, you cannot put lawn signs on public places within 30 days of the election. So, but what I noticed, there was a trend of people walking back. I mean, the poor dogs, they must have gotten walked like 60 times a day. So, and I knew that because my dog would sit by the window and bark her brains out. So I said to my husband, I said, you know what? We can't do this the same way as you used to, where you had events and you had to, like you said, shake hands and kiss babies. But I said, we got to start getting name recognition. We got to start putting everything out there. A friend of ours in New York, he has an very successful advertising agency. And he's done flags for me and signs before. So he changed he did my design. Unfortunately, I don't have anything on me to show you what it looked like, but they're very colorful signs. And so we started plastering them everywhere. And I'm actually the only candidate that's running on her first name. I'm not right. So it's a big, huge red, white, blue, and with yellow letters, Dasha for Congress. And we started putting them out there. People started calling, requesting them for the lawns. And then they were on public property. We had a lot of enthusiasm. We're doing everything grassroots. We have about 300 volunteers who were knocking on doors, hanging door hangers, making phone calls, delivering lawn signs, and just working like crazy people. So, it's different, but we have to get creative. So we also focused on, because the hardest part is raising money during the pandemic.
Sure.
And I feel kind of a little bit like a schmuck asking somebody who's been unemployed for 8 months to ask them for money.
Yeah.
So anything that comes in, I am very grateful and excited. So everything that we received, we ended up going into either lawn signs, literature, door hangers, or postcards and postage. Initially, when we won, we met with a consultant, and their budget for my campaign was over $1 million. And I kind of looked at them and I said, okay, give me the breakdown. So they wanted me to have 5 offices, fully staffed. I needed to have billboards. I needed to have literature, all this and that. And that's how they came up with a budget, including, they're paying for themselves and all that stuff. We don't have one person on payroll. Everybody's a volunteer. And frankly, you get more enthusiasm that way. People are more committed. We already have 5 offices that GOP, our Grand Old Party, is already paying for. So my comment was, why do I need my own offices if I can work out of their office? And frankly, in this day of pandemic, who's going to be going there? So I don't need an office. So everything we've been doing either out of my living room or my volunteer coordinator's living room. So we were having events when we started to kind of open up a little bit, when we went into the yellow phase, and you can have 25 people. We would meet with them on the lawn or somebody's house, and I would talk to them. We probably had over 100 meet and greets. And I do have an interesting story which relates to people during these times. So as I like to start my speech, I say, how is everybody enjoying their free 8 months of socialism light? Because that's where we are, And people look at me like I'm crazy, but I said, socialism is the government's overreach.
Yeah.
And the more power you give to the government, the more they'll take it. Like our governor has been sued 4 times and he lost regarding reopening Pennsylvania. And yet he still refuses to stop the lockdown. And his excuse is, well, I know it better than you. So you don't know what you're talking about. I know it better. So
are you referring to our governor, Tom Wolf?
Oh, yeah. He's just.
Yes. As a 36-year veteran of combat in the U.S. Army, serving around the world, 23 years of my service overseas, I found it highly entertaining that the former Peace Corps volunteer would threaten business owners, mayors, and county administrators, calling them cowards in the face of an unseen enemy, as if he's ever seen an enemy other than political opposition.
Well, we have Senator Doug Mastriano, who has been fighting to reopen Pennsylvania. He's amazing, like the nicest. So everybody's pushing for him to run to be the next governor. And I think he actually has a great chance. Unfortunately, it's not for another 4 years, I think. But it's unbelievable to me. So 60% of the businesses that were shut down will not reopen. So that's people's livelihoods. Our children are still not in school education. Some schools went hybrid, where they're 2 days a week they're in school, and 2 days a week they're out of school, and 1 day a week they have no school. It's a mess. And my heart bleeds for the teachers and the parents. So if you're a single mother and you have 3 kids, and one is 7, the other one is 7, 9, and 12, and they're all on different pages, you have to be there. So you have to quit your job in order to monitor your children, because otherwise, it's actually a true story. A friend of ours, they have a 7-year-old, and the uncle of the 7-year-old who does repairs and stuff was at the house doing repairs outside, and the 7-year-old just came out and started playing. He goes, "Aren't you supposed to be in class?" She goes, "Oh, it's boring. I don't like it. I'm done." She just walked away, and then we have some really sad and crazy stories. I had a mom call me last week, and it's not that she wanted me to do anything because there's nothing I could do, but she just wanted to vent. She has a daughter who's on the spectrum. She's 12 years old, and because of the shutdown and isolation, she tried to commit suicide.
Yeah,
so
that's one of the things that I've been railing about since this started. South Africa went on a lockdown on March 27th. Part of Pennsylvania, as you know, including where you live, had been on lockdown prior to that. We didn't go on lockdown here in York County until the next day after South Africa. So I was out recording a video showing my empathy for South Africans. The next day I had to change my tune and go, well, we're in the boat with you. But from the very beginning, Dasha, I've warned people that social isolation, especially for the elderly, but not exclusively for the elderly, suicide, depression, also the things that people don't want to talk about, gender-based violence, spousal abuse. And this is something no one ever wants to talk about, but let's be honest, incest. We see parents sexually abusing their children. Now they have access to their prey 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when they're locked down and can't go anywhere. And this was completely disregarded by public health authorities, completely ignored, not to mention all the important things like cancer screening and such. I know a nurse in South Africa, they have a small child now who's not going to survive because he didn't get a normal screening he would have gotten 6 months ago because of lockdown. He couldn't leave his house, and now he has inoperable cancer and will probably die very soon. It's just horrible.
Well, that, and we actually my mother-in-law lost her husband who had dementia. When this first started, he was forgetful, but it wasn't as bad. And he was in the home, wasn't allowed to have access to anybody, deteriorated very quickly, and he passed away in August. The progression of these type of stuff is also drug abuse and opiates. People who even were on, recovering are now relapsed because they have no, they need somebody to talk to. Mental health, it's a big problem. I actually talked to somebody yesterday about that, how critical it was, and the people were not getting treatments. So that's on the rise. I mean, there's so many elements to this. And I have very poor districts in areas in my district where parents and families depend on school breakfast and lunch programs.
For nutrition. In other words, they don't eat.
Nutrition. Yep. So they had no access to that. And because also of our regulations that we have on our farms and everything else, farmers who are in middle of Pennsylvania were dumping milk and killing their cattle because they could not get that food and milk and dairy products into those neighborhoods because of regulations. So the government makes them destroy that instead of sending it to somebody who needs. I mean, this is communist Russia, because in communism, it was the same thing because of government took over. If let's say a farm produced 50 cabbages and they were supposed to produce only 25, the government would go and make them destroy the other 25 cabbages. The rationale was if they're hungry, they're not going to revolt. So that's pretty much where we are right now.
Well, it shows you the lunacy of a system that's driven by some unseen, unknown, inexperienced, or just uncaring technocrat. I mean, I had a very fine history teacher when I was an undergraduate at university, and he taught Russian history, of course, and Soviet history. And he had gone there as a graduate student, and he'd studied, of course, what was still the Soviet Union. This is back in the 70s he went there, and it was the early 80s when I was a student. And he told me about this one time when he went home. Every day they were painting in the stairwell. There were guys painting. And they were just slopping the paint just like this all over the place. And finally, after watching this for a couple of days, because he was learning his Russian, he said, "Excuse me," he said, "why are you making such a mess? I mean, you're wasting all this paint. Isn't that expensive?" And the guy said, No, you don't understand. If I don't make a mess, then Sergei has no job. He cleans up the mess I make. So they're intentionally wasting paint, a valuable resource that's hard to come by, so that they can employ someone in a nothing job that has no advancement, no hope. It's really sad. Let me do a little housekeeping real quick, Dasha. Okay, I got a couple super chats from someone who I discovered last night is someone that I've known for 20 years and had gone to school learning French with out in California 20 years ago, and then knew again at the National Security Agency a few years back. Kind of caught me by surprise last night, and that's Topsy Kretz, who's here in Pennsylvania. And Topsy Kretz has given a couple super chats. He said, "Happy Friday, blue full moon, Halloween weekend, everyone. Hope you cool cats and kittens had a great week. Welcome back, Miss Pruett, because he was here for your last appearance. He enjoyed it. And I didn't put two and two together until last night. Now I realize who Topsy Kretz is. And no, it's not Joe Biden, in case anybody's curious." He also said, "I love that Miss Pruitt's husband is her campaign manager. Who has your best interests more than your husband and best friend? No one. Good luck next week." Well, that's awesome to say that to you. And I've got to mention this before we get back to the sloppy paint thing, because you probably have something to add to that. But I don't know what's going on in the chat, but I'm getting a little distracted here trying to pay attention to your fascinating conversation. But in the chat, I've got Finnish being typed. I've got Afrikaans being typed. There's English in there. I'm just waiting for Russian to show up in the chat. And then I'll know that I've been hacked by the DNC, because Russian operatives will be in my chat. I'm just saying.
That's funny. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, you know what? We actually had street sweepers in order, and they usually were little old ladies, because everybody under communism, everybody has to work. And they had this old brooms, old fashioned brooms that, were like a stick with like twigs tied together. And that's what they used. And they were sweeping up the streets. And, frankly, that's was their job, that they barely get paid for. So, it's been very incredible to me. And I think incredible is an understatement of the year, to watch our country that was built on freedom. It was built on religion. It was built on just liberty and opportunity, and how easy it is for people to roll over and to give it away. One of the things, like on my cards, I'll show you just real fast. Mm-hmm. These are my rack cards, and it starts with God, family, country, jobs, and security. And I actually had somebody email me. They were very upset that I had God on my card. And it was kind of funny to me in a way too. And to them, it was separation of church and state. And I said, listen, God is for me. Because when you come from a country when you're not allowed to have faith, you fight for your faith. So God, it might not be important to you. It has nothing to do with me putting my God into your life. Yeah, that's between you and your higher power, but it's important to me. And frankly, I honestly believe we are in this state because we turned a godless country. We no longer have the same, children don't go to church anymore because, parents don't make them. I made my children go, and whether they liked it or not, until they became teenagers, and then it was up to them. But I wanted my children to have some kind of an experience. And I think eventually, my daughter's actually, who was baptized Catholic, is practicing Judaism. So go figure that. But it's, it's important. When we immigrated here, I actually spent first 4 years in an Orthodox Jewish school, because we came here as Jewish refugees because my father was Jewish. So, and during this process has been so amazing, and I've met such incredible people. So I became friends with this rabbi in an Orthodox Jewish school, synagogue. I actually went to a Rosh Hashanah service for the first time in years. So when I first met him, when he reached out to me, and his questions were about, the Jewish community and my involvement with, how I view things and stuff, we became very good friends. And when we started talking, I said to him, Rabbi Yonah, I said, when we immigrated here, I spent 4 years in the Lubavitch's Orthodox Jewish school. I said, my friends laugh at me. They say that I'm more Jewish than they are. He says, if you went to Lubavitch school, you are more Jewish than they are. So, and I'm honored that I have this old, old Bible and the new Bible, and I can put them together, and I can, I have that platform, and I feel very blessed. And I think our campaign is a God-driven campaign because, like I said, everybody's volunteer. And we've never ran for office, and you know how complicated it is. It's even now even more complicated because of all the FEC rulings and regulations, and they make you jump through hoops like a trained poodle. And God forbid you break anything. So anytime we kind of got into a snag, someone would come along out of nowhere and get us through that point or advise us. So everybody who came into my life were through, I honestly believe, through a higher power. It was through God. So, and even in the 72 hours, I believe we've done everything we could. So it's in God's hands, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But we have a pretty good feeling about it.
Well, you're talking, of course, the 72 hours we have left in the campaign. It's rapidly disappearing. Before you know it, it'll be Tuesday, and we won't know the results. It'll be Thanksgiving, we won't know the results. It'll be January, there'll be chaos in the streets, and we won't know the results. No, I'm just kidding. But there's a real possibility that we may not know. This is what I'm predicting, Dasha, is that in January, I predicted a red tsunami. And what I meant by that is after the fraudulent impeachment of Donald Trump, in which the Democrats failed to produce a single high crime or misdemeanor, they simply had political differences, they impeached him. And after that, he was riding a high. The economy was on fire. Things were great. The Beijing bio-revenge had not taken hold. We didn't have a single case in the States at that point. And I predicted a red tsunami. And by that, I meant that the Republicans would retake the House, which I would assume would include you. I would have included you in that.
I would hope so.
But the Republicans would retake the House. They would have held on to the Senate, even though it's a tough year for Senate for the Republicans. They have twice as many candidates running as the Democrats do, because just the way the seats fall. And that's what I expected. But as the political hysteria over COVID came, and we saw how it was portrayed, the media falsely portrayed, and how Trump was falsely attacked, and all the blame was put on him and not on Tom Wolf, who put people in nursing homes and they died, or on Cuomo, who did the same. And, Bill de Blasio telling people to ignore the CDC recommendations in March and April, just come out to Puerto Rican Day Parade. Ignore those bigots in Washington. Nancy Pelosi doing the same thing. I started to see that there was not going to be a red tsunami, but I still thought Trump was going to win. But as the summer wore on, I actually got a little nervous a couple weeks ago. But looking at the events of the last 2 weeks, Joe Biden putting his foot deeply into his mouth by saying that he's going to ban or get rid of the carbon-based economy, and he'll ban fracking. He finally admitted that. That kind of put his foot on the gas, and I think he has a campaign that went a week too long for him. But I can't speak for the House. I don't know how it is, because the media this year is not paying any attention to the House races on a national level. They're barely talking about it, which is very strange. And I have no sense of where we're going to be. I mean, the Republicans could win 40 seats. They could keep the same. They could lose 10 seats. I have no idea what's going on. It's very difficult. How do you feel about your chances there? Are you feeling good? I mean, if I look at your opponent's website, I can't identify any issues that she supports, just the things she claims she's accomplished.
She hasn't accomplished anything. She's a junior congresswoman. The only thing she accomplished was insulting Barr at the hearings and behaving like a complete and total fool. She actually put out a press release saying that she brought $1.9 billion into our area. I'm yet to see it, but she took credit for the Chinook helicopter project, Boeing Chinook, which I believe that whole thing started, correct me if I'm wrong, but at least 20, if not 30 years ago, if not even longer than that.
Yeah, that aircraft has been around longer than that, but the program you're talking about is something that happened long before she came on the scene. You're correct.
Exactly. So she took credit for the naval yard being rebuilt, that she's bringing business into there, which she's not. That's been going on at least 15, 20 years. She took credit for the COVID relief, which she had absolutely zero to do with. And she's marching with Black Lives Matter. So that's her big platform right now. Frankly, she's not campaigning. We just started seeing her signs coming out like maybe a week ago. People don't know who she is. I think she's running on, or she feels comfortable because of Joe's polls and because he's polling higher, which frankly, you cannot go by that because they're fake. I mean, the only polls I know is going to a Trump rally, which COVID, no COVID, people showed up in droves. I think in the one that was in Lancaster on Monday, everything's blurring. I don't remember what day of the week it is anymore. If it wasn't for trash and church, I would not know. I would have no idea.
Well, at least those are consistent. Trash collection.
Exactly. But so she's just rolling out of bed. And I think she thinks that, again, because she hasn't done polling, she refuses to debate me. I'm like nobody to her, except for her people stealing my signs and defacing my signs. That's about the only thing she's doing. We even, like, I have a team of people who are working on like social media and just PR and all of that stuff. And one guy, he's in finance, incredibly, like the way their brains work is not the way my brain works, which is such a great, it's so great to have. And the other guy, he is in venture capital. He likes to do startups. He starts businesses and then he gives them sells them to venture capital. So he's very brilliant as well. So he's been tracking her social media. The only thing she does is she either retweets a tweet or she posts something. And I think the way, even looking at the sentences structure of her own posts, I think it's a 14-year-old that does them because they're incoherent sometimes. So she's not running a campaign, period. So I honestly have no idea. I think she thinks she has it in the bag, but we'll see.
We'll see. Exactly. And with the mail and stuff, we'll get to that in just a moment. But folks, you're listening to Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel on a special feature interview with a congressional candidate, Republican conservative congressional candidate for the 5th District of Pennsylvania, just below Philadelphia, catching the southern suburbs of Philadelphia and below, down around Chester in that area. And that is one Dasha Pruett, who was previously a guest on the channel. She's back with us today. We're just discussing her opponent. And Dasha, I'm looking at her website. Like I said, I can't find any issues that she says she's for, but she claims to have co-sponsored 400 bills in Congress. Wow, that's impressive for 2 years in Congress, 400 bills. I'm finding it a little hard to believe that's true. Says she saved...
I think one of them is to make Martin Luther King Day a national holiday. But I think that was done already. But
it is a national holiday, so maybe it's to repeal it because there's an effort in some states to get. But I don't know. But that's our, or maybe I don't know. So that's her. But she's got the Reauthorization of Violence Against Women Act. So reauthorization, which means all she did was vote on a bill that came in front of her, and then this common sense. This is what always gets me: common sense gun violence prevention bills. In other words, disarming law-abiding citizens. That's what that bill is, right?
It's called the red flag law, which the House already passed. Well,
yeah, that's a dangerous piece of legislation. Based on that, a disgruntled spouse can report someone and they can go disarm that person, take their weapon away from them, and then you have to go to court to try to get it back, just based on the fact that someone made a claim against you. Not even a health professional, not even a law enforcement officer, not a judge. It's a scary, scary totalitarian law.
Well, it's just, you know what, with this COVID, everything is totalitarian. Like Wolf put out, I want to say it was in July. He put out an 800 number so people can report businesses who are not staying COVID compliant, which are the rules that he made up, and Rachel Levin. And
Rachel
in one,
Levin.
Yeah,
right? Her and Fauci, they ought to just get on a raft and just sail away.
Right. So in 1 month, there was 5,500 calls, 5,500. I mean, people were so eager to go and report one another.
Snitches get stitches.
But that's what they did in Russia.
Oh, yes.
And now they're encouraging kids to report their parents for, I forgot what it was at this point. It was something so ridiculous that I got a flashback to, to what we were taught in Russia, to report your neighbor, to report, your parents, to report anybody and everyone. So it's just, this is where we're heading. And this is what's so scary to me, because coming out of that and living in that and seeing this happening in front of our eyes, I don't understand how others cannot, like, don't understand this. And everything is, they did in Russia, everything's for your own good.
Of course it
Everything,
is.
right.
The state knows best.
But
So,
you know what? We've been already brainwashed into believing that for a long time. I mean, think about it. Even on cigarettes, the warning on cigarettes, even though, if you don't know that smoking can cause cancer, then I don't know what to tell you. But I don't think it deterred anybody from, that label, but it was for your own good. And then alcohol has a label that's for your own good. Then putting calories on food, that's for your own good. Or McDonald's, if you're eating 600 hamburgers and you haven't realized why you gained weight, then I don't know what, it's like, but everything, we already been so brainwashed to that, including free. And I think we talked about this last time. It's this free stuff. We already kind of programmed that free is good.
yeah.
Because, we get free samples, we buy one, get one free, we get gift with purchase, whatever. So we're kind of already used to this free, free, free. So now everybody's like, yeah, free medicine, awesome. Or free school, free college for everyone. And, and then you'll get a free unicorn. It's kind of like, these kids are not even thinking. It's like, well, who's going to pay for it? Because if you get a free sample, it means the store taking it out of their pocket to give you that free item, cantaloupe or whatever it is. Or manufacturer who's giving you that free gift with purchase. It's, they don't even think about it. Free medicine in Russia was sterilizing needles, like they were still glass needles. And I grew up in the 70s. So just in case, nobody thinks I grew up in like the 20s or the 30s. They were sterilizing them in boiling water. This is in the 70s. I did not know that diabetes was actually a disease because it never even got treated. We didn't have insulin. My grandfather died of cancer. He had lung cancer, and he died in the pool of his own blood in our living room because the hospitals won't treat you. They just send you home. There was no chemotherapy. There was no any kind of, my grandmother actually, she was a doctor of cardiology and she treated patients with valerian root. I mean, that's how backwards we were. Like, that's what free medicine is gonna look like.
Well, I've got free medical care in the military, and while I'll say without reservation or equivocation, amazing dental care throughout my career when I was around it. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Africa, so I didn't have access to it. But anytime I was in military installation, I got fantastic dental care. I can't say the same about healthcare. It was average at best at times. And one example of just how screwed up socialized healthcare can be. As a military officer, when I was stationed in Germany for 2 years, I had 9 primary care providers. Now, how in the hell am I supposed to form a relationship with my primary care, my doctor, when I have a new one before I even go to the clinic the next time to get an immunization or to get some cough tablets? 9 in a 2-year period. I can't imagine how many I would have had. Now, that's, of course, because the military is deploying people all the time. People are transitioning. But still, I mean, that's crazy. 9 in 2 years. And when I got out or retired last year, I decided to go with the TRICARE, pay the insurance, and be able to use the military clinic at Carlisle Barracks for my health care. But I've been there 0 times for any care this year. But the point is, when I signed up for it, they told me I could keep it sound like Obama. You could keep your doctor. Well, my doctor is a naval reservist who was deployed, and he's been gone. I hadn't seen him in 18 months. He was about to come back. And I said, all right, I'll keep this program rather than going to the Veterans Administration because it's closer and I like the doctor. And then they assigned me some other doctor. What's this? And they're like, well, no, his panel's full. I mean, what do you mean his panel's full? I'm one of his patients. Well, no, that was when you were a colonel. Yeah, that was last week. Now I'm not a colonel. I'm a retired colonel. Come on. So yeah, health, and that's a relatively good system. And then you imagine hiccups in other places. But while we're talking about languages there, suddenly I think one person actually knows Russian, started typing in Russian, and then Greek started showing up. And I've seen Hindi and Farsi now showing up inside the chat over here. So people are having a little bit of fun there. But just to let people know, just so you know, If you are from the GRU or from Russia, please say hi to Vladimir for us. I want to make sure that Vladimir knows that we don't want him to look for Hillary's emails because it'll be misconstrued, not as a joke, and be carried as a political theme for 3 years. So please don't interfere with our elections, Vladimir. We have enough Democrats and leftists and George Soros and the fake stream, mainstream, lamestream media interfering.
And we have Zuckerberg.
And we have what?
Zuckerberg.
Oh, yeah, Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey from Twitter. Did you see him with Ted Cruz in the Senate? Oh, my gosh. Mr. Dorsey, do you not think that Twitter can influence elections? No, we have no way to do that.
He looks like a homeless person, by the way.
Well, I looked. I'm like, well, I got a beard too, but I don't look like a homeless person. He does. He looks like he's a drugged out, East LA, living in a tent on the side of Hollywood Boulevard or something like that. Oh my goodness!
Like, what's with a nose ring? I mean, he's a little old for that.
He's a lot old for that. He's in his 40s now.
But it's just they're so out of tune. And actually, we're talking about elections. So Zuckerberg actually dumped about, I want to say, $14 million into our area alone. And it's done under this, I forgot the name of the institute. He created this organization. It's like a private organization. And he was, let me see if I can even find info on it. But he was trying to influence our elections. And he's going under kind of like, no, this is an education. We're educating people about the elections. And I was actually on that lawsuit. I'm not quite sure what happened with it, but
last time I checked, YouTube is not registered as an educational institution. So where the hell they get off trying to educate people?
Well, it's right. I mean, it's just the whole thing is just absolutely insane. But you know what? If Trump was not running, we would not be having this problem. Honestly, I think it's all about him.
Oh, no, it is. It's Trump deranged. But listen, I've got to share this with you, Dasha, before we get any further. This is really important. You're in Philadelphia. I know this matters. So I'm just going to share this. So Bravo Lima Mike, Biden's laptop matters. Just so you know. Biden's laptop matters. That's clear. We support Biden's laptop matters. And I mention this because we're talking about cover-ups and collusion and the mainstream media. I mean, the New York Post, one of the oldest newspapers in this country, over 200 years old, founded by Alexander Hamilton. The left loves Hamilton. They make what's the
musicals?
Yeah, the musical. I'm trying to say, but what's the Broadway? Broadway. That's what I'm looking for. Broadway musicals in New York, and they distort him and create all these bizarre characters. But they're in love with Hamilton, even though they don't understand Hamilton. But Hamilton founded the New York Post, and it is the fourth highest circulation newspaper in America, which is no small feat in the age of disappearing newspapers. And they censor them. They ban them on Twitter, and then Facebook does the same thing. And then they make these spurious claims that, well, it's hacked material. How do you know it's hacked material if you haven't done an investigation? This is unbelievable. And it backfires on them, Dasha. Instead of it disappearing and nobody paying attention to it, because Peter Schweitzer wrote about the Biden family corruption for years. He's written about it over and over again, and his books sell well, but it doesn't get on the news, so no one really talks about it unless he goes on Fox News, something like that. So it's been out there. I've known about Jim Biden and his corruption. I've known about the daughter and the corruption. I've known about all this stuff for a long time. It's a matter of public record, but no one seemed to care. And now 2 weeks before the election, Twitter and Facebook try to censor, and it blows up in their face. And now everybody knows about it, and people are discovering about the basically what should be a RICO investigation of the Biden family, and they're still trying to cover it up. It's crazy.
It is crazy. But you know what? The censorship is even in our Delaware County Times.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the riots, I don't even remember, Monday and Tuesday, I guess. So were the big nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I'm yet to see an article or a photo talking about the looting that was going on. There's absolutely zero information. It's not being covered. The only thing they're talked about was how this guy, I forgot his name, Wallace, I think, that he has mental illness. They forget to mention that he actually had a criminal record as well, but that he had mental illness and the police need to be investigated. All of this needs to be investigated. So that's how they cover this, because they know this is going to piss off a lot of people. Particularly the small business.
Well, I think what's happened here is that they were perfectly fine to allow the media to cover the looting and burning and stuff like that, because in June and July, they thought it worked in their favor because it showed lawlessness. And a lot of the American electorate is wholly uninformed about how our country works and don't understand it's a federal system. They didn't go to civics in junior high school. They weren't required to take American government, graduate high school. I don't know why they even bother to go to school, but they don't even understand how our system works. People going, well, what's this electoral college? I learned that in 7th grade. You don't know what electoral college is? I think that they thought that it was working in their favor. And I agree that it was working in their favor because it gave the impression that the president was weak and that he was indecisive. Because why doesn't the president just go in? Well, number one, unless he declares martial law or invokes the Insurrection Act, he can't simply go in. It doesn't work that way. And people just don't get that. It's like blaming him for the deaths in New York and in Pennsylvania for COVID. He has no control over that. It wasn't Trump that put these people in nursing homes or told people to go out in public. They warned them against that. But it was working for them. But now people are so fed up with being assaulted, people wearing pro-America things, being attacked in their own cities, in their own country. It's not like we're walking around in Moscow in 1975 wearing a Go USA shirt and somebody throws an egg at you. This is walking down your own streets in America. People are fed up with it. And now it's not playing well. So they're covering up what's happening in Philadelphia, and it's not getting the attention it would have gotten in, say, in Minneapolis or Portland or Seattle. And that's why, because it doesn't suit the left's narrative. And that's just, they're dishonest.
You should see the city of Philadelphia itself. I mean, Mayor Kenny managed to completely break the entire, it used to be a beautiful city. I think under Rizzo and Randell, they worked like pretty hard to bring it to what it became. And now there's no stores. Stores are leaving. Restaurants are leaving. He managed to create a tent city outside of the art museum, which was growing by droves, and he could not get them out of there for months. I think he relocated them finally somewhere else, but it's not like, somewhere else. It's like, where's the leadership? And they were looting and burning city of Philadelphia the other night because of this whole thing. It's just the lawlessness with these people is absolutely absurd. And so Wolf was supposed to call the National Guard. He was supposed to contact for the National Guard. He went back and forth, and now they're going to deploy it, but they're not going to deploy it until probably beginning of next week sometimes. Well, at this point, it's a day late and $1 short. It's just, nothing makes sense about this.
Not at all. It's unbelievable, piss poor leadership, and it has been since the outset. And for a gentleman with as distinguished as a CV as he has, it can only mean that it's intentional. He's not that stupid. He's not a dumb person. He's well educated. He's well experienced. He's an accomplished person. I'll give Governor Wolf all that. But his leadership in this has been abysmal, and it's been very, very totalitarian and very dictatorial, which is very unfortunate because he won with a comfortable margin the governorship, which meant that he got bipartisan support in some respects. Let me throw a couple comments in here from our friend from Finland there. Lori said that was telling Sharon, writing in German, that was an exchange student in Rostock, which of course is in the former ehemaligen DDR, the former German Democratic Republic, which was not democratic and it was not really German. It was German and it wasn't a republic. But so the exchange student there. But Lori just asked this question. I don't know if you have an answer on this. This is one I haven't heard people talk about. But could you ask Dasha whether there are pro-Russian lobby groups in the U.S. with an aim to influence politics, business, and so forth, akin to a pro-Israeli lobby? I'm not familiar with any. There may be.
I'm not familiar with any. Not that I know of. If they are, they're really on the down low.
Yeah, they certainly don't get the attention. Pro-Israeli groups get a lot of attention, as do some other lobbying groups. But there are lobbying groups for everything you can think of, folks. Pro-cotton, pro-sugar, pro-dairy, pro-ethanol, pro-papacy. There's even lobbying groups for that. So take your pick. But Dasha, it's something to talk about here I think is really important. If we look at things objectively, let's just take Biden and Trump out of the equation. Let's pretend it's candidate A and candidate B. Well, the sitting president is candidate A. So a poll of likely voters, of people who are going to vote, this or already have voted or will be voting, taken just a few days ago nationwide. The results, a large poll, said that this percentage of people said that they're better off than they were 8 years under Biden and Obama. So 56% of Americans today say that despite 9 months, 10 months of COVID hysteria, despite 43 million Americans losing their job and 30 million of them still looking for work, so 30 million Americans out of work right now, despite that, after 8 years of Obama and Biden, just 4 years of Trump, all of this, the Russia collusion hoax, the Ukraine fake impeachment, all the nonsense, the Christopher Steele dossier, all this carping, the fake Muslim ban, which never occurred, that was lies too. All these lies, putting children in cages, one lie after another, saying S-hole countries, and he's talking about Haiti, not about Africa, but they claim it's African. All of that stuff. He's a racist, he's a homophobe, yada, yada, yada. People, over half the country still says they're better off than they were 4 years ago. Now, in any rational world, how could anybody see the president not getting at least 56% of the electorate? If you're better off than you were under that clown, why would you bring him back to be the president if you're better off? That doesn't make any sense. So the polls, come on, I'm not buying that nonsense.
So the polls, it's actually kind of funny. A lot of people, I'm still waiting to get polled, by the way. I haven't gotten a phone call yet. But some of the people who do get polled, they'll say, I'm voting for Biden, but they're actually going to be voting for Trump. Or they just hang up and say, none of your business. Yeah. So there's a lot of that going on. So like I said, the only poll I need are my eyes and my ears. Yeah. And we've been probably, in this year alone, in the last few months, we've been to at least 4 Trump rallies. And each one, the one in Lancaster, people were traveling. The funniest thing was the Amish. They were more like horse and buggies. I mean, they had a whole parade going up to, to see the president speak. And people, it was raining, it was cold, it was miserable. I definitely should have wore better shoes because, 8 hours standing in heels did not play well on my back. I know, that was my own fault. But people were standing there. People were showing up. There was about 30 young Hasidic Jews that drove from New York, from Brooklyn. It took them about 4 to 5 hours. They got there at 4 a.m. just so they could see the president. That's commitment. And there was, I would have to say, at least 20,000 people. It's the enthusiasm behind him is incredible. I mean, Joe Biden, if he gets 5 people out there with their big circles around them, that's a good rally. I mean, it's sad and pathetic. And the only thing that I hear negative about, and I actually have heard some people say I voted for him last time, but I'm not voting for him this time, is because I don't like the way he talks. Well, don't listen.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing with Trump is, I don't know if we talked about this, but I was not a Trump supporter in 2016. I was a Trump voter. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I couldn't vote for a felon. I mean, as a counterintelligence agent, I know that Hillary Clinton violated the Espionage Act. I do not need to see a trial. She admitted publicly. That's it. Conviction. Federal jail. Leavenworth. Bye. Enjoy the orange jumpsuit, Hillary. She's a felon. And so I couldn't possibly vote for her. So I voted for Trump, but I'm not a fan. I mean, he's a cad. He's a bore. He's a bully. He says the most unusual things at the worst time. So, okay, great. People don't like him, but promises made, promises kept. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. This guy is the first politician, and yes, he is a politician now, even though he claims he's not. He's been a president for 4 years. He's the first politician I've seen in my lifetime that's actually had the ability to, because not everyone has, because if you're a member of Congress, you may have the best intentions, Dasha, but you're one of 435. You got to have enough to get something through. But he can get through what he wants. He's the chief executive. So he's the first politician I've seen in my entire lifetime, other than Reagan, that said, I'm going to do this, and they actually did it, which is just fascinating. But people really need to get past that.
And I like that he puts America first. He is so focused on bringing back jobs and protecting our jobs. Yeah. I was actually the only, me and Brian Fitzpatrick, between you and I, mm-hmm. If he's a Republican, he's a very soft, but it's neither here or there. But I'm the only one that got the steam fitters local 420 union endorsement. Mm-hmm. I didn't even ask for it. I don't even know how they heard about me. And when we first started running, our GOP chair, Lawrence Davis, who's been involved in politics probably his entire life, and he said to me, the most important endorsement you can get is from the steam fitters 420 union. And because they kind of affect everybody. It's, it affects the electricians, from pipe fitters to you name it, it affects everybody. And and I think the reason I did is because I openly talk about protecting our jobs. Mm-hmm. And we have the pipeline running, the Mariner 2 project running for fracking. And it goes into our Marcus Hook, which is by Chester. And people are losing their minds and they want to end it. If this pipeline goes, then we will have hundreds of thousands of people out of jobs, including the Naval Yard, because Naval Yard right now are working on a deal where, because of the Puerto Rico deal and bringing oil to Puerto Rico, our barges are 75 years old. And they're actually trying to work on a deal to start building more barges so they can take the oil or, and send it to ship it to Puerto Rico so they can kind of keep it there. So think how many jobs that is, how many jobs it creates. It can actually give an opportunity for a very impoverished area. That is the saddest and the poorest area in my district. How many jobs it can create and how many opportunities. And I can actually pull those people out by the, bootstraps and create. We can become one of the most incredible areas, incredible cities economically, reducing taxes and better life for everybody. But, they're not thinking about this. I understand environment, and I actually was listening to this gentleman talk about fracking today. He's in charge of it, and he was explaining what it was and how safe it is, frankly. But they don't want to look at it that way. They want, all these, all these crazies. I mean, we should protect our environment, but they haven't done anything. They talk about it, but they haven't done anything.
No, because their solution for protecting the environment is to make it off limits. It's a planet. We inhabit the planet. And it's here for us to use, just like it's here for deer to use and for birds to use. And they just try to shut off. That's the extent of what they're doing. It's absolutely crazy. I'm a conservationist, and so I take great exception to these loony lefty environmentalists, because they really don't understand. You can renew the environment, you can protect it, but the way that they go is just too much. And one of the biggest things Trump did when he came in office is simply with a pen eliminate a bunch of federal regulations that were crimping our ability to have an economy, and that created a lot of jobs almost overnight, because restrictions that were having limited or no beneficial impact economically and certainly no, ecologically, and very little economic benefit were just eliminated, and it just unleashed industry. It's amazing. So Sonny said, Chris, 2024. Well, one of our senators decided not to run in 2024, and if my former colleague Doug Mastriano decides to run for governor, then maybe a Senate seat will be open in 2024. But I have to say this about Trump. I think you'd probably agree. I mean, it's interesting. You got the local union. Did you say the pipe fitters? Is that who it was? The pipe fitters union?
Yeah, steam fitters.
Steam fitters. You've got their endorsement. That's something Democrats have been able to count on for decades, and now that's not the case anymore, because Trump, despite the attempt to portray, it's funny because they attack him because he's rich, he's disconnected, and then they come back and attack him. Well, he's not that rich after all, and he's failed, and he's lost all this money. Well, which is it? He's rich and disconnected, or is it the truth? He gave up a lot to represent the people, and he is really a blue collar president. The irony is a billionaire. This swanky dude, marrying supermodels, living in Manhattan, flying in his own personal jets and helicopters everywhere, a Hollywood celebrity, and he gets Joe Lunchpail better than Joe Lunchpail Biden does.
Well, he grew up in that environment. Think about it. His father made construction made him work along the workers. That's why when you really listen to him talk, and if you read his books, even the Art of the Deal, the book is written in the same way that he talks now. It's kind of, except it's not repetitive. Now he gets the psychology. So if he repeats something 3 or 4 times, people will process it. So, and the name calling, as much as I hate it, but I think it's still funny. It's childish, but it's funny.
Well, I'm on board now. Actually, I don't have issues with it anymore. I've grown past the Trump's a bad guy.
Biden, Biden, then it's
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
where's Hunter? Crooked Hillary. It sticks. And we actually we do the same thing. We call her MIA Mary because she's nowhere to be found. So she lives in Swarthmore, which is a very wealthy area.
Yep.
She never leaves that. Her car does not drive in any direction except for in Swarthmore. The ironic thing is I have more signs in Swarthmore than she does. So, and it tends to be very liberal because of the university, Swarthmore College, very, very liberal school, well, they're all liberal now, except for probably Lincoln University.
And Hillsdale, and then
Yeah,
Liberty, just a few.
Liberty, yeah.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I'm sorry, there's a couple people mentioning, talking about the environment stuff here about lithium for batteries. Look, guys, I've talked about the left's fairy tale fantasies about their so-called green energy, which is not green at all. It's more destructive for the environment than petroleum itself is. It's just absolutely insane, the stuff they come up with, destroying entire mountains just to get to a handful of rare earth elements to make batteries for cars. And then, 400 million cars driving around the world with electric batteries in them. Where are those batteries being disposed of? What's that happening to the water table environment? And oh, by the way, we're going to plug all these things into power plants that now run on coal, but in 20 years run on solar power that doesn't work at night, or solar thermal, which can only keep so much energy stored in these vats of molten salt underground, or wind that doesn't blow. And so I guess when you come out to get your car in the morning in LA in 20 years, when you can't get to work because there's no charge because the power plant was overwhelmed overnight, there you go. That's what you get for not using hydrocarbons. But it's just...
Well, they had that during the fires when they lost, when they lost electricity. People could not get in their cars because their cars are electric cars. But, people don't think about that. They kind of, we need windmills. Well, where am I going to put windmills in Philadelphia? What building am I knocking down? And there's so many interesting ways you can fix the environment. There are opportunities. I don't know, the inefficiency we have, it's just the way government runs things. It's always, pardon my language, ass backwards. I'll give you a good example. We had a stretch of road, it's probably about 2 miles. They were digging it up and then repaving it and, painting lines. Literally a month later, they decided they're going to change the pipes for the aqua line, which is our water line. So now they're digging up the same road that they just paved so they can run this pipelines, which took forever. And then they started repaving them again. And whatever material they use, within 3 months, there's a pothole that you can fall in. Like in Pennsylvania, we have this, in Philly particularly, we have a joke, we don't need swimming pools in Philly because we have potholes. You can swim in that. It's crazy.
I can attest to that. I spent a lot of time in Philadelphia, what with the sports complex down there and also getting in the city itself. It's just insane, absolutely insane. Folks, you're listening to Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel on a Friday, a lovely Friday, the 30th of October. Wow, 2020, I want my money back. It's been stolen from me. The year of the Rona, year of the Rona. My special feature guest today is Dasha Pruett, a U.S. American citizen, conservative Republican, running for Pennsylvania's 5th Congressional District for Congress, hoping she gets in to push that total back in the favor of the Republicans down there in D.C., the swamp itself. So we won't call Dasha a swamp creature if she wins and gets down there, but we will hold her to being the conservative that she says she is, and we'll hold her to that. Dasha, I don't know if you'll be able to stay with much longer. If you can stay with us a little bit longer, but I think this has been. I get the impression it's been relaxing for you off the campaign trail, just kind of conversation here.
It is. It's honestly this week, particularly this week, it's kind of the home stretch. So with the mail-in ballots, a lot of people already voted. So
not me. I'll be at the polls on the 3rd.
I'll be at the polls. My husband, unfortunately, was not able to, because in the primary because we had no idea what was going to be happening. We did register for a mail-in ballot, and once you register for a mail-in the primary, you automatically get one for the general. So I had to opt out and fill out a form. Yep. He filled out his form. He's never got processed. Mine did. And even though I had to, after I mailed it in, I received an email 2 weeks later saying, oh, by the way, our bad. we did not put the proper language. So our attorney's having a problem with this. So can you please submit a letter of intent that you really, really actually do want to cancel your mail-in ballot? So I said, yes, I really, 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 truly promise you, swear on the Bible that I want to cancel my mail-in ballot. And then I finally received the confirmation, which I will have to bring with me because.
Yes. Well, don't forget the original envelope because there's a barcode on it. If you don't take the envelope, you won't be able to vote.
Right. Oh, I told my husband, don't bother opening it. Don't look at it. Don't touch it. I will take care of it. But even with that it was a mess. And I had one woman call me yesterday in a panic. She said, I was just told that I was with somebody who was exposed to coronavirus. So now I have to be quarantining for 14 days. And I was supposed to go mail in person. So what do I do? And I mean, I felt like saying to her, if you don't show any symptoms, wear a mask, wear gloves, wear a hazmat suit, whatever you want to do, but go vote in person anyway.
But you didn't say that. But you didn't say that.
Right. Well, I mean, if it tests negative, then but she was in a panic. And luckily I have to actually contact her and find out what the final word was. Mm-hmm. You can apply for an emergency absentee ballot. But she said, well, yeah, but when will I get my real ballot? Like, how am I supposed to vote? Because our mail is so inundated right now. My mail used to get delivered at 2:30 in the afternoon. My mail now gets delivered at 7:30 at night because my postman works 12-hour days. Yep. Because he's inundated, and because of the schmarona, everybody's calling out. Nobody's going to work.
Right.
So it's just been insane.
It is absolutely insane. It's just crazy stuff. Listen, did you see any of the rallies that President Trump did a day or two ago when he was in Bullhead, Arizona, and he'd been in Omaha the night before? Omaha had 29,000 people. It was freezing out there. You saw the Trump stuff there with those black gloves on and the wind blowing. But then in Arizona, part of my what I did in uniform is responsible for estimating crowd size. Now, I didn't have the best view, and I haven't seen anybody estimate, but I'm telling you, in Arizona, there had to be at least 40,000 people at that airport from what I saw. Utterly insane. Meantime, Sleepy Joe, Puxatawny Joe, popping out of his den there, looking to see if it's going to be 6 more weeks of winter, popping out like Puxatawny Bill, our groundhog here in Pennsylvania, pops out and he's got a dozen people. Or, the exalted one himself shows up in Miami in 228 cars with about 400 people turn out for a Barack Obama rally for Joe Biden. 400 people for Barack Obama. Wow. I think that's a pretty clear indictment on that guy's presidency, but I'll just leave that there. But Trump, 40,000 people or 29,000, even 5,000. When he came here in 2016, he went to the Cumberland Valley High School, which is a nice, it's a big school, their gymnasium held thousands. They had about 10,000 people in the gymnasium and all the classrooms could overflow because they have TVs in there so they can see what's going on. And then there were another 5,000 people outside. I know because I was one of those 5,000 people that got within 40 feet of the door when they shut it down because the fire marshal wouldn't let anybody else in. Reasonable. It says a lot of people. But 15,000, 2 days prior to that in Harrisburg, Hillary Clinton had 286 people or something like that show up for her rally. Trump had 15,000. Today, 15,000 would be a big disappointment for a Trump rally. I mean, that's small. I mean, they're all bigger than 15,000, no matter where he goes. It's absolutely insane. I mean, I saw that and I looked and I said, that's like watching The Who at Wembley back in the 1980s when The Who were singing at a concert at Wembley Stadium, watching Trump in Arizona. That was insane. And he landed on an airfield. I don't know. He's landing Air Force One. It looked like an unimproved surface. All the dirt kicked up on the runway out there in Arizona. I'm like, whoa, pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, my husband and I probably went in 2016 through probably about, I want to say 15 rallies, if not more. I mean, and it was impressive to see him in these sports arenas. And then there would be another, that's what news never showed. Right. There would be probably another 10,000 people standing outside the stadiums watching him on those jumbotrons. And so this time, because it's in the open hangar, and they set it up like he has 3 more rallies in Pennsylvania tomorrow. He had 3 on Monday, and each one packed at least 25,000 people.
Yeah.
But that's 75,000 people that ran to see him. I mean, the amount of support he's getting is absolutely unbelievable. That's why I think we still will have a red tsunami. It's just people are so afraid to put a lawn sign out.
Oh yeah.
They are afraid to say anything because they're like, I'm afraid to have a rock put through my window.
Sure. Or your car keyed or something burnt on your lawn. Yeah, it's happening. And that's why. So in 2016, I told people because of that phenomenon that 3 to 5% of the electorate was going to vote for Trump if they weren't telling. Plus also at that time, I think there were a lot of people who were just embarrassed. I mean, I don't like the guy. I don't want people to think I'm going to vote for him. I'll vote for him, but I'm not going to tell anybody. This time I'm telling people, and this is anecdotal, but I'm pretty darn sure that 5 to 9% of the people who are going to vote or have voted for Trump or will vote for Trump, and they're not going to tell anybody they voted for Trump because they're afraid of being shot at or their yard being vandalized. It's absolutely crazy. I'm seeing a lot of people who had Trump signs up previously, whom I know, and are still voting for Trump, they've told me, but no signs because they're worried about their property being damaged.
You know, his signs were stolen so many times they could not keep them in stock. Like you couldn't even reorder them. Our headquarters could not get them. I mean, it's like, or I think maybe people are picking them up and hiding them at home, you know, as a souvenir or something like that. But it was kind of funny because with my signs, people are like, well, I'm not going to put Trump's sign, but I'll put Dasha's sign out there. Yeah. And some people told me that they've actually seen my sign next to Biden. I don't know if I should take offense to that or I should be happy. But
maybe it's a Democrat. They'll make the mistake at the ballot. Oh, that's Dasha. Yeah, she's with Biden.
Right. But it's you know, you see, like feel the same enthusiasm behind us. There's a lot of prayer meetings going on, prayer calls. I've been on a number of them. It's just been an incredible experience. And I think the problem with first of all, with Biden, you know, it's not going to be Biden, it's going to be Harris.
Yes, because within 90 days, Joe Biden will have to resign for health reasons, and he'll resign the presidency. And then a person who couldn't get even 2% of the Democratic primary vote will suddenly become the president of the United States. And remember, Dasha, that when she couldn't get 2% of the primary vote in Iowa and New Hampshire, we were racist because we couldn't pick a black woman. First of all, she's not black, but I'm not a Democratic voter in Iowa or New Hampshire, so how can I be a racist for not voting for her? She left the race before I ever got a chance to vote for her. Not that I would.
Right. But that's, you know, this type of stuff is so democratic. It's all this, you know, if you were not voting for me like Hillary was, you know, you won't vote for me because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Well, it has nothing to do with you being a woman. You're just an idiot and you're nasty. So she's a nasty woman. That was Elizabeth Warren, I think.
No, that was Hillary. Yeah. But yeah, I get your point. It could have been either one of them. That's funny.
Right.
So I want to mention something about Trump very quickly, which I think a lot of people don't know. So I'm going to disclose a secret. Do you remember that movie Men in Black? Have you seen those movies, Men in Black, with Will Smith? Mm-hmm. Okay, so so you have that reference. And then I want to ask you about the Lancaster rally that you went to before we get up. But the thing about Trump is most people know. A lot of people are saying in the chat that Trump is just so full of energy, keeps going. I mean, look at this. The guy got the Rona, and he kicked it in a couple days. He defeated Corona. He's 74 years old. He's got more energy than a linebacker in the NFL. Not that anybody watches the NFL anymore. They might as well watch Trump. But it's amazing. It's unbelievable. But here's the thing, and this is a secret, Dasha. He's actually an alien. People don't know that. He's from Alpha Centauri. So now what I'd like you to do, Dasha, is look very carefully right here at this device in the camera. Okay. You didn't hear that he was an alien from Chris.
Oh, gosh.
Wipe
The amount of stamina he has is really incredible. I mean, it's just mesmerizing to watch him. And I mean, he's like tireless. He's just running. I'm exhausted and I'm watching, and you know, I'm way younger than he is. And I'm just like, I don't know how he does it. And here's Sleepy Joe. He has to put a lid on before doing a rally because he needs a nap, his hot cocoa, you know, whatever medication they're pumping him, vitamin B12. It's like, and he still thinks he's running for
The Senate.
against George.
Yeah, well, he's a proud Democrat running for the Senate against George. It's funny, but what I like about Joe Biden is he's very flexible. In the midst of the second presidential debate, he suddenly invented Biden care out of thin air. It's going to be better. Biden care. What the hell is Biden care? There's no policy there's no platform issue on that. That's just crazy.
With Obamacare, we ended up losing our insurance because
yes,
it became so unaffordable. So we had insurance. It was 500 and something for 3 people, and a $1,500 deductible. And then when Obama kicked in, it became almost $2,900 per month for same three people with a $10,000 deductible each, which we will never reach.
Right.
And doctors, like we have friends who are doctors, and any doctor out there who votes for Biden, there has to be something wrong with them, because they could not even submit a lot of the claims.
Right.
So we go to a boutique doctor who we pay in cash in order, to get shots or whatever we need. I mean, it's just, this is what it's getting to. People are like, my mom was a doctor in Russia. People bartered to go see a doctor. Like she bartered against other doctors, or, she had an optometrist friend whose son had a lisp. My mom also was a speech pathologist, so she worked with him, on correcting his speech, so I can get my eyes checked. I mean, This is where we're going to end up.
Well, I do want to get to that question about the Lancaster rally, but before I do, let me just get a couple things. Topsy Kretz had some advice for you. He said if Ms. Pruett hasn't been there already, he highly suggests that she check out the Southampton Spa in Southampton, close to you. Great business, and it's owned by Russians. Okay,
the Banya, yes.
Yeah, so and then Count von Totenkopf just said that Biden is going to build back better. That sounds to me too much like a Justin Timberlake song, "Build Back Better." Just saying, Anyway, but then
it sounds to me like the Russian slogan. Honestly, it sounds like a propaganda slogan.
So Topsy Kretz asked some time ago, and I didn't get a chance to get to it now. I was asking, and I don't know about this bill. I'm not familiar with what's going on, but. He asked how you feel, and I don't know if because this is on the floor already, the House Resolution 8452, which is the Whistleblowers Act and Espionage Bill Act. I'm not up on it. I don't know if you're up on it either, and I wouldn't expect you to be.
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look that one up.
Yeah, 8452. I've heard that there was something on the floor, but I'm not that familiar with it. So it's a good question, though. Thank you, Topsy Kretz. Didn't want you to think we're forgetting you there. And let's see what else. Okay, so let's get to the rally that you went to with all the Amish hanging out there in Amish country there in Lancaster. So the Trumpster was there, or that was Trump, right? He was there.
Yeah.
Okay. So at that rally,
an hour late. It's notorious, but.
But did now he tends to give out shouts out to candidates and people. Did you get a call out by Trump at that rally?
I did not. He actually focuses more on, plus it's not my area. So he kind of was focusing more on the Congress people or politicians who were already in office.
Okay.
So he kind of, who already have a seat. What we've been told, I don't know. Do you know G.T. Thompson? He is, I want to, 9th Congressional District, I believe.
Yeah.
So it might be somewhere closer to you. So GT does, every Friday we have a meeting with him at 8 a.m. He kind of goes over with a bunch of us who are running, depending on who can be on the call. So he's been kind of like a mentor through the whole thing. And the way he explained it is Trump doesn't like to lose. So he doesn't like to take chances on areas. And we are very blue. Montgomery County is very blue, blue meaning Democrat.
Yeah.
And Chester is very blue. So he's kind of, even though he's watching the races, he's afraid to, do anything or say anything. So, and the other thing is, frankly, I would prefer for him not to give me a shout out because I need my independent and Democrat voters. I need my swing voters who will not support Trump. Frankly, they're not voting for Biden, so I think they're going to just leave that blank. But they came out openly, said that they're voting for me. So I need those voters. So I would prefer him not to give me a shout out.
No,
It would be cool for me, frankly,
yeah. But for your campaign, maybe not so much. No, it's interesting because he, of course, is all in helping out Martha McSally and in Arizona. I know him personally. And then also John James in Michigan, whom I don't know personally. And then, but he is silent on Lindsey Graham, who's really carried a lot of water for the administration, particularly for Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation. Lindsey Graham is in the fight of his life right there down there in South Carolina, and he's not really saying anything in helping out Susan Collins, but I can understand that. Susan Collins is a bit of a rhino, so I can understand why he's not doing that. But Lindsey Graham is kind
I think Lindsey Graham, it might be a similar thing. He
Yeah.
might not want to upset the apple cart because Lindsey needs that independent and swing voter as well. So he might be just kind of keeping it quiet, just, not to have a backlash on Lindsey.
Yeah,
So
I got you there. Hans asked a cheeky question. He said, "Did Trump travel to the in a buggy to the rally with the Amish?" No, I'm sure he didn't. But listen, the Amish are amazing Americans. The Amish and the Mennonites are a fantastic part of the fabric of our society. Most Amish still speak German as their first language. Some Mennonites do. It used to be most. Now it's far fewer. But they're amazing contributors to our economy. They pay taxes. They keep the land healthy. They produce furniture and goods and services that we need. And they're great
he was
contributors.
funny. He gave him a shout out and he said, these, because there were a bunch of them sitting in the front row, and he said, "Look at these beautiful people." Everybody's beautiful to him.
Yeah.
Look at these beautiful. They can throw a barn up in 2 days. It was just.
Well, he's only off by a day. They can usually do it in a day, but I get his point. But he's not. He doesn't say everybody's beautiful. Remember all his rallies, like, yeah, those people back there, the fake media.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I feel bad for the cameramen because they're not the evil people. They're just the ones behind the camera. They have nothing to do with it. It's pretty funny. But so Peter Crutchley, who's South African, living in New Zealand, says, "Sorry, Dasha isn't the Prime Minister of New Zealand." Wow, that's a nice thing to say. Pretty cool. Yeah, the Prime Minister that just got reelected, Dasha, her party surged and they got like half the vote, which is unheard of in New Zealand because it's usually coalition governments and smaller parties. But she did that on the strength of her performance on COVID-19. Now, I mention this because I've talked about it on my channel a lot. It's funny because I'm not saying that New Zealand has done a poor job. They've done a pretty good job with COVID-19. But they keep hailing, the international media keep heaping praise as this election came up for her and basically carrying her to the election so that she won this thing, and she probably would have won it anyway. But they say all these wonderful things about how fast she was and how New Zealand got it right. Funny little thing on the way to the chapel, though. I looked at the dates of actions that Trump took in the U.S. that he has the authority to do, and the same actions or similar equivalent that she can do in New Zealand. Every single thing she did in New Zealand was 2 weeks after Donald Trump did, except for one action, which actually was about 10 days faster than Trump. But he declared national emergency in faster than she did. He stopped travel from China before she did. He was the first world leader. So Trump is getting lambasted by the fake lamestream media while Jacinda Ardern is propped up. And then I take this a little bit further by compare a country that is similar to New Zealand, but much larger population-wise, Taiwan. New Zealand has 1,883 confirmed cases of COVID-19 last week, and they had 25 deaths. And they...
Sorry, my husband came in.
No, that's all right. Send the campaign manager away. Tell him to put some flyers out in the yard.
That's where he came from. He was putting signs in the... we had very creative signs made. It were Democrats for Dasha. So he was putting them in the heavily Democratic. Believe it or not, that's the sign that gets stolen the most.
Well, they probably want it for their collection to save, put on their wall.
Oh my God, it's hilarious. But yeah, he was going out and putting the last amount of signs that we have, which is not a lot. I mean, we went through 7,000 signs at this point.
Wow. What's the turnout usually in your district? Is it a few 100,000 or so? Do you know off top of your head?
I don't, because this election, the turnout has been huge.
Okay.
The year that my opponent won it was like a gap year. So
small turnout then.
Very small turnout. The candidate that she ran against, her name is Pearl Kim. She didn't have a platform. Her platform was that she is a woman. Her parents are Korean immigrants. She had breast cancer. She was a breast cancer survivor. And I think that she was a sexual assault survivor. So everything was kind of like, well, I'm sorry that happened to you, but how is it? what are you going to do for me?
How is it relevant to the office you're running for?
Right. So she just, and then what kind of buried the hatchet for a lot of people on her is when she ended up on CNN with a AOC +3, and that kind of turned people who were going to vote for her just kind of just were like, okay, you're a Democrat. We get it. So this turnout is, I mean, the amount of, somebody sent me statistics. Unfortunately, I don't have my phone on to check the amount of ballots that already been returned. It's been like the numbers are through the roof, and that's not even counting how many people are going to show up at the polls.
Well, I just looked at the numbers from 2018 when Mary Gay Scanlon won that race. There were 305,000 votes. So we probably expect to see a lot more than that this time. That should be interesting. Now, it's interesting in the primary, Pearl Kim, the candidate you were talking about, she won that. She got 100% of the votes. Everyone voted for her, 34,000 plus Republicans. But in the general election, Scanlon took it home with 198,000 to 106. So the number we got to prove on is at 106.
She did not have a contested election. She was actually endorsed candidate. So she did not have an opposition. That's why she had 100% of the votes.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but you're looking at your district, 718,000 people. That's around the general size because we apportion our congressional districts based on population around the country. It's majority female. You got about 52% female, and it's about 64% white, whatever white is, 25% black, 7% Asian. That's actually a higher figure than I expected, 7% Asian, and about 4.7% Hispanic, according to this. Interesting. Median household income, 67,000. So right there at the national average. The per capita GDP is about 67,000. So household income, that's right on the money. High school graduation rates, 92% roughly. College graduation, almost 38%. So it's an educated area. People got their education, and they're doing well, relatively speaking. But I know that in parts of your district, there's some very poor, especially in the eastern corner there over towards the airport in Chester, some really poor neighborhoods.
You know, and it's interesting. So this statistics are from after they gerrymandered because before it was the 5th Congressional District was completely different. We had like 21% of college graduates. We had in the 80% range of high school graduates, but I think the mean household was 42,000, I think.
Wow.
The reason it went up is because we have South Philadelphia now.
Yeah.
And South Philadelphia, they tend to, make more money because most of them are in trade or in some other, because of the gerrymandering. Before, I think my district had a lot more country, rural areas. I don't remember the exact line, and I have that somewhere, but not on me. But yeah, I mean, South Philly is, I have to say, we're actually going there Sunday for their rally. They're doing a car rally. I think they're expecting about 500 to 700 cars.
Wow, that should be fascinating.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
It's like my goal. It's hard for that. It's like campaigning in another country. It would be like comparing U.S. to, I don't even know. I mean, they have their own culture. They have their own. Everything is kind of so, and it's been very difficult to get into that area just to get myself known. But that's our one opportunity to talk to them because they've been really struggling because of the whole cancel culture. Columbus statue has been sitting in a box in Marconi Plaza for months now. Yeah. Rizzo, who was one of the most beloved Democrat mayors, his mural was painted over and his statue was taken away because it's somehow offensive to somebody. I don't know whom, but everything's offensive to everybody anymore. So they've been really struggling with that whole cancel culture. And also because a lot of them are unions, are nervous about what's going to happen with if Mary Gay stays in there and they're going to stop fracking. And with Boeing actually moving, I want to say to Atlanta or something like that, partially it's going to be moving to Atlanta. So we're going to start losing jobs.
Yeah.
So I think they're nervous. So they're easy to get, to have them reach across, even if they're registered Democrats.
No, it's pretty crazy. It's funny how mayors and governors have so much authority that like the president doesn't have. It's the most powerful, singular, most powerful political figure on the planet, yet doesn't have control over the states because we're a union of states that are sovereign. We're not a union of peoples. I keep telling folks in South Africa because, and other places, that's important to understand because in South Africa you have all these different ethnicities and different nationalities inside of a single nation state. And we have a single nationality here. We have people trying to bifurcate us and create other nationalities and make distinctions that aren't real or they're superficial. But the reality is whether you're white, you're brown, you're Tamil, you're Cherokee, you're Russian immigrant, or you're a native-born white boy from Appalachia, we're Americans, and that's our national identity. Right. It's just an identity. It's an ideal, and people are trying to undermine that ideal. You can't strip someone of their physical appearance because that's what they are. That's their DNA. But you can't strip someone of an idea, and that's what's at work here. These leftist bastards are trying to destroy the concept of America and what it is to be American, and it's utterly ludicrous because I've been interviewing congressional candidates. You came here from the Soviet Union as a child with your parents. I interviewed Earl Weber, a filmmaker, a producer out there in California, who's a Jamaican immigrant who left Jamaica because it was dangerous. His parents went to Baltimore. He went from being in a country that was very dangerous and not particularly well developed, but everybody valued education, so they all competed to be the best student in school. He winds up in classes in high school in Baltimore where they're all competing to be the biggest ass and throwing spitballs at the teacher and at other people and who can get who pregnant and that sort of thing, and showing total disdain and lack of appreciation for education. He managed to keep that mindset, and education is important to him, and he's been successful. But Earl is telling me about, of all the people he graduated from high school with in Baltimore, he only knows a handful of them. Most of them are dead. They're dead. They became criminals, and they died in the streets of Baltimore. He said only a few of them have been successful. Most haven't made it. But he's running in Los Angeles, in California's 37th district, which includes Beverly Hills, Culver City, and Century City. But again, another immigrant. It's the immigrants who tend to be the most devout and loyal and committed Americans, which is, I find hilarious when people say that Donald Trump doesn't like immigrants. He married one.
Married two. Remember
that's right. That's right. He's got a thing for Slavic women. That's true. I forgot about that. Dasha, you better tell your husband to watch out. The Trumps are like Slavic women.
The thing is with being an immigrant, you understand why you come here.
Yeah.
And I tell the story, and when I tell it, to other immigrants, like I had to do a speech in Harrisburg last Saturday, I think, with Senator Doug. And we were talking, like when I talk to people, I explain to them the importance of America. It's the land of the freedom, and people don't, we come here for that freedom.
Yeah.
Because even like I lived in UK, I lived in Italy. Even in UK, you don't have that same, people are much better educated and they know a lot more about history and they read a lot more. Like you get into a taxi and the taxi driver, the cab driver sits there and talks politics with you and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like what's going on there? And but it's still, you don't have that same, I don't know, you have restrictions. There's in a way like a caste system where, if I live in Morton, it's going to be very difficult for me to move up to Kensington Gore. Mm-hmm. Like you would have to really jump through hoops. There's kind of, where in America, you come with nothing, you can build everything, you can lose it, or you can decide to switch careers or do whatever you want, but you have that, there's no handcuffs. And I hate when people start, with the race card, you can't, like right now, this Black Lives Matter. Of course they matter. So every life matters, every life matters. And there's somehow making it that which kind of surprised me, it's sending the message to the Black children that the color of your skin is going to prevent you from achieving anything you want, which is not the message I would want for my children.
It's also nonsense. It's factually inaccurate.
Well, we had the Black president for 8 years, so you can be anything you want. Yep. So it's kind of, it's the narrative that's being driven right now is not the same narrative that we had here in the 80s when we immigrated here in the 80s. Because when we came here, it was, you can be anybody. You can do anything you want. You can do, there's no limit. The sky's no limit. You just have to work hard. You have to persevere. You keep your eye on the prize, but you can get there. And it's just, I honestly, my husband will tell you, I cry at every American anthem. I cannot hold it, like thinking about it, I get welled up because we are the land of the free, because of the brave people like you who, put your life on the line in order to protect our freedom and to keep us free. And here's these fools who want to destroy it. Who, like you said, never served anything, don't know what it's like to own a business, how to write a check, how to be a small business owner really sucks, pardon my language. But it does, because I love when people are like, oh, you're so lucky, you get to work for yourself. I'm like, yeah, I'm really excited to work 24/7 and be broke all the time. So yes, it's awesome. I love it. But it's like these people who make decisions on us, all of them are an attorney, majority of them. Mm-hmm. That's why our bills are so complicated, because they have to write them in the legal lingo that you need like somebody to sit there and decipher for you, because I don't understand why can't it be in simple language.
Well, our Constitution is just a couple of pages long, yet the Unaffordable Care Act was 10,000 pages long. What is that nonsense? If you have
because they try to put a lot of other garbage in
but also all the things they put in there, it makes it impossible to actually adhere to the law, because it basically makes everybody a criminal. It's insane. If you can't write a law on 2 pages, then it's not a good law. Bottom line. That's the bottom line.
We had a thing going on with contested signatures, not us personally, but and by the time the final decision, there was like 4 or 5 different hearings that we had to do via Zoom, going to court during the time of pandemic. And so by the time we got the final document, which basically said you don't have basis for anything, mm-hmm. It went from 4 pages to 57 pages, because they literally had to regurgitate each time I'm like, why? We already have that paperwork. You don't need to tell me what happened during the first time there was, something going on to the final. Just give me the final verdict. Like, I don't need to reread this garbage.
Yep.
So, but that's, I guess, billable hours.
Crazy stuff. Here's something here. I don't know. We'll switch gears just a little bit there, Dash, before we wrap up. Is that I know I'm in this boat, and you don't have to answer on this. You're running for office, but I just share this with you. I know a lot of people are incredibly angry and frustrated that Hillary Clinton's never been prosecuted, that Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, all these deep state operatives who violated the Constitution and violated the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act with this ludicrous warrants against Carter Page, as if he was a foreign agent when he's actually an agent of a U.S. intelligence agency, and that was covered up by the rest of them so they could spy on him, even though he was spying for America. All of this going on. A lot of us are really frustrated and really holding out hope that after Trump wins re-election, that the gloves will come off and then Barr will finally get off his duff, and we'll start to see prosecutions of these people who have undermined our democracy. And also, the one thing Trump did do early on was he did declare Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, which they are. Yep. I think, and I predict that within a week of the Trump winning the election, he will declare Black Lives Matter a domestic terrorist organization as well. And I think he hasn't done that just because of the optics, and I can understand that, and I accept that. But a lot of us are hoping for prosecutions because we're sick of this nonsense. I mean, listen, I was a counterintelligence agent. I know what it takes to get a FISA warrant to spy on an American. And I never abused that authority, never even sought to, I never would ever even dream of doing that sort of thing. It's just, and I've actually investigated Americans for espionage who've been accused of espionage. That's part of my job. So I could have gotten warrants. It was appropriate, but in those cases, didn't think it was appropriate. But the point here is that these people are acting as if we're in the Soviet Union. They're using our intelligence services against us. The media, even the private media, is against us, ordinary Americans. And so many Americans are so clueless and believe this drivel. It is heartbreaking to see people run around with their nonsense and cannot see the forest through the trees. And whether you like Trump or not, man, this is the end of the road for democracy, for the world, if we don't stop this nonsense.
I honestly hope that the gloves will come off after the election, because I think this is why the Democrats are fighting so hard, because I think they realize that that's what he's going to do, that he's going to, he's already, look how much in the 4 years, how much the cesspool that he exposed.
Yeah.
And I think because he knew he would have to run for a re-election, I think he kind of kept it on the down low a little bit.
Been restrained.
Right. But I think once this is over, I think there's going to be, hopefully, heads are going to roll. I don't know if it's going to be Hillary, because
no, I don't think that's unfortunately that would be unseemly for the nation. I think that she's going to get a free pass, because the optics of us prosecuting a former candidate for the office of the presidency kind of makes us look like Nigeria or something like that. No offense to Nigeria, none intended. But my point is it doesn't look good. So I don't think Hillary will ever face the Piper. But she'll never shut up either. But did you see the other day she said, she did a podcast, yeah, there's a specter of illegitimacy over his presidency. What? Move on. You lost.
Will not go on.
You lost. My God. Move on. Go plagiarize more children's books with your daughter. Plagiarize more books. Unbelievable.
You know what? But somebody has to, like Strzok and Page. Somebody has to pay the price, because what was this has happened. I'm honestly shocked that it's not more outrage about that. Mm-hmm. Because it's like communist Soviet Russia. We're going to do whatever we want. Poor Michael Flynn, like my heart bleeds for him, mm-hmm. And it's just, this is un-American. This is like living in Russia, where people can, again, report you, spy on you, do whatever. And if they decide you're guilty, they're going to decide you're guilty. Trump was impeached on what Joe and Hunter Biden were doing.
Exactly.
If you really think about it.
No, exactly right. Exactly right. It was exactly right. That's exactly. And he was impeached. They were upset because they claimed that he wasn't delivering self-defense weapons to the Ukraine, which was a lie. They'd already delivered javelins to them, and this was another shipment. And the Obama administration delivered no weapons to protect themselves. They sent blankets and bandages. While the Russians annexed the Crimea, Obama did this. When the Russian-backed militias invaded eastern Ukraine and took over a third of the country, and they begged for help, what did Obama do? By the way, Ukraine was on the path to become a NATO country. That's why this happened. That's why the Russians went in, because they didn't want Ukraine to become, and certainly not, that's why they went for the Crimea. There's no way they're going to let NATO have bases in the Crimea. And that the people forget, they're like, why did they take Crimea? Because they don't want NATO ships there. Bottom line, it's not like there's like gold or cobalt under the soil. It's nothing.
Right. It was always the biggest. My grandfather was a Navy captain, high-ranking Navy captain, and that's where they lived. They lived in Sevastopol. They lived in Crimea. Beautiful place, by the way. It's gorgeous out there. Okay. But because it was the biggest port. That and was it the Black Sea and the Baltic Sea are both, they were ports.
Yep. No, it's interesting. Now, someone in the chat, I think it was Adonet, said something about East Germany, and I was going to mention this earlier, so I'm glad it just kind of prompted my thoughts about it. We're talking about snitches get stitches, this police state, and encouraging people to snitch on people. Like Wolf is trying to do here. We saw this in East Germany, where 17 million people lived and 1 million people were on the payroll as government informants. Can you imagine that? People informing on their own parents, people informing their own children, people informing their own family members. That kind of hysterical sort of domestic surveillance is unbelievable. And of course, we have plenty of that through tech titans and through the capabilities that the Patriot Act gives us, which are, even more Orwellian than that, but pretty scary. The DDR, the East German Republic, and the Stasi and what they did. And it's amazing just how pervasive it was. You would think that people would learn lessons from that, but so many people today don't even remember that there was a Cold War, let alone that we won it. It's unbelievable. And I'm not just talking about 19 and 20-year-olds. I'm talking about lots of people. people.
Well, people also starting to spread rumors like the Holocaust never happened. I mean, things like that. You know what? History will repeat itself. You know, like even right now with this whole between the Black Lives Matter and defunding the police officers and snitching on people and taking away our guns, our Second Amendment, our arsenal. So where they're heading with that is going to be government run policing state, which is going to be similar like KGB, where they're going to kind of make up their own rules and they're going to say, well, you know what? I think you're guilty. You know, so we're going to throw you in jail. What am I guilty of? We're not sure. We'll figure it out. Espionage, whatever they're going to come up with, you know. And this is where we're heading. And this is, you know, when I started talking about it 3 years ago, I didn't believe that we were going to be in this state. I just wanted to educate people about what it's like to live under communism, socialism, you know, how like gloomy it was and how depressing. And never have I thought that I will be actually watching this unfold in front of my eyes.
It's unbelievable. I mean, what did I serve 36 and a half years in uniform to support and defend? Why did I go abroad and spend so much of my life abroad when I could have been kicking back, going to Disney World, you know, enjoying the beaches, you know, enjoying life back here and have a relatively safe and peaceful life, supporting and defending the Constitution so that people have these inalienable rights, which they're trying to strip from us. It's unbelievable. I never in my wildest dreams, Dasha, did I ever imagine that I would see in America where people in Congress would call for state takeover and then taking our rights away. And a lot of people get wrapped around the axle about the Second Amendment, but this is a lot more than the Second Amendment. These people want to end freedom of assembly. They want to end the right to redress from the government. We saw that here in Pennsylvania earlier this year before the Black Lives Matter protest and riots. Before that happened, we saw citizens, law-abiding citizens, go to Harrisburg. Now, this is before we were even told we had to wear masks. Some of them were wearing masks just out of precaution on their own at that time. People were told to maintain social distance. Most of them did. Some didn't. But a peaceful protest, many people staying in their cars in front of the Capitol building right here in Harrisburg, and they were portrayed by the media here in Pennsylvania and nationally and by the governor as right-wing, nut-job, racist Trump supporters. That's what they call them.
I guess I was one of them because I was in that car rally. It took us 3 hours to make it through the block. There were so many cars and so many people who were just reopened PA. And, you know, that's how actually, well, I already knew Senator Doug actually already endorsed me by that point, but he, you know, it was pretty amazing to watch this. And again, I think about the concept too of the government telling you who can be open and who is an essential worker and who is not. Everybody's an essential worker. If you're putting food on the table, you're an essential worker.
Yeah. No, I mean, a government that has a hard time determining who actual essential workers are in its own structure and trying to tell the rest of the state. No, but I mean, that's a constitutionally guaranteed right, the right to assembly, freedom of assembly, and the right of redress from your government. That is the most sacred of rights. I mean, people, you know, freedom of religion, sure. Freedom of speech, sure. For the Second Amendment, right to keep and bear arms, sure. But the freedom of assembly, I mean, when you take away the freedom of assembly, other than the right to life, I mean, you know, there's no more sacred right in my mind. I know people think Second Amendments, but I think the right to seek redress for grievances against your government, that's why we have a country, because the British rejected our redress. The king would not listen to our grievances, and we showed him. And taking that away, and which is what Wolf was trying to do.
You're talking about, you know, freedom of assembly. Did you hear the new rule that Wolf passed that for holidays you cannot have more than 5 people?
That's because nobody wants to go to his house for Christmas.
So if I'm a mother of 10 children,
you have to send the kids out.
Right? Like what? I mean, in your own house, they're ready.
And so, of course, Dasha, then the question becomes this. What scientific survey and study did you use to determine the probability of spreading COVID when you have 5 people versus 6, 7, 8, or 9. So please share with me the science, because we have to listen to the science, Dasha. We have to listen to the scientists, because the scientists are so informed and they get it right all the time. Dr. Fauci, don't wear a mask. Do wear a mask. Your dogs can't get it. Your dogs can't get it. The death rate's 3.4%. No, it's 0.25%. Don't go indoors. Don't go. Oh, Dr. Fauci, the fountain of knowledge. He and Dr. Tedros, they're the ones who need to get on a raft and sail away together. Oh, and take Rachel Levine with them.
Right. I mean, there is no science behind any of this. I mean, look again at Trump rallies. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I'm sure maybe 1 or 2 got COVID or had COVID, whatever. But you don't hear anybody dying from going to a Trump rally. I haven't heard anything so far,
Well, if there were, you could be sure it would be round-the-clock news on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC.
Right. You can riot and loot and destroy people's property and businesses, so you can't get COVID that way. But if you go to church, you can. If you're sitting in a restaurant, you can't get COVID. But the second you stand up, you can get COVID. Like, come on.
Oh, but in New York, you can't have a restaurant or bar open in this block, but up 2 blocks away, all of them are open because they're allowed to be open, because magically COVID doesn't transmit or travel with people going from one part of Soho to the other part of Soho. It's just, this is utter nonsense.
I mean, but this is control. And now it's becoming even more of an overreach. So now you're going into my house, into my property, and telling me what I can and cannot do, who I can and cannot have. Like, I'm sorry, that sounds like house arrest to me. Like, that's not how it works in this country.
Yep.
Last time I checked. I mean,
let's get down to brass tacks, Dasha. You're running for Congress, and we're pulling for you. At least I'm pulling for you. So I think my audience is pulling for you too. Most of it anyway, if not all of it. But it's Friday. You've got Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You've got 3 days left of campaign here. Do you have events coming up this weekend? Or are you going to be engaged? And what's going? You mentioned going over towards Chester, I think you said, in neighborhoods over there.
We have. We're still waiting on the details. There's supposed to be another Trump that they haven't even announced yet. There's supposed to be another Trump rally in Bucks County tomorrow, and 2 more in other places in Pennsylvania. So we might be going to that. I'm still on the cusp if I want to go or not. It might be better for me to be somewhere else. Then we're also doing a trick or treat. It's called the trunk or treat. So I think that's going to be either in Darby or Chester. So it's in one of those neighborhoods, just to get, Halloween candy for the kids. We're going to have to rush home to make sure that we get our own kids, in our neighborhoods, whoever comes out to trick or treat. We normally get about 400 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of candy, a lot of trips to Costco. But I don't think we're going to have that many. It depends. So we're hoping to do that. Then Sunday, we have a Back the Blue rally. It's also going to be a car parade. Yep. It's going to be our 7th one. And they want me to speak at that one. And then we're going to South Philadelphia for the car parade, for the Trump Back the Blue parade in South Philadelphia. So we're going to be doing that as well. Still not sure about Monday. Running around like a crazy person on Tuesday. We're going to try to hit as many polls as possible. Shake hands, kiss babies, if we can. And at 8 o'clock, from 8 to 11 on election night, we're actually going to have like a little get together, pizzas, and just to celebrate our hard work, because it has been a hard work. And then I'm going to sleep probably for 4 days in a row. Well,
in the interest of full disclosure, Dasha did invite me to her celebration that night on election night, but I had to decline because I'm actually carrying the election live and giving analysis that night from right here at the Starship studio here, whatever we're calling this thing, the NCC Wyatt. But thank you for the invitation, Dasha. I appreciate that.
Oh, sure. I mean, once it's over and once it's announced, I think we're going to have another like a party. So you'll definitely have to come to that one.
All right.
Whenever cool. That will be. I mean,
well, it might be in 2 days or 10 days or 21 days or January. We'll see.
I know, but you know what? Just hoping. I need lots of prayers. Everybody, please, in your native language, whatever religion, just pray for us that we fight for our freedom in our America and land of liberty, opportunity, and freedom that, Chris, you fought so hard for.
No, it was a distinct pleasure. I always said I would stay as long as I enjoyed it, and I felt I was making a difference. And I pretty much, whoops, sorry, that's something starting back on there. I said I'd always do it as long as I felt I was making a difference, and I enjoyed it, and that pretty much was the case throughout my entire career. It was a pleasure, but the heartbreaking thing for me, and if I do go into politics, it's going to be because I'm like you. I'm heartbroken at the way people are lying about this country and lying about the opportunity for people. I've seen it. I mean, I can look at so many African immigrants who've come here since the 1990s. And they've all been successes. They're not burdened by the historical, baggage of victimhood and slavery. That's not their narrative. That's not their history. And so they come here like you came here, and like Earl Weber came here, and many other immigrants, with wanting to become something and seeing that the world is your oyster. And you can overcome it. So for me, it's really heartbreaking because I've lived in these broken countries, and I've lived next to, adjacent to, and been through socialism, and it's not pretty. It's unfortunate. So anyway, have you heard the song by Los Tres de la Habana, a Cuban American group out of Miami? It's called the Trump song. You haven't heard that?
No, I'm going to have to find that. I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah, so well, I'm going to play it when I wrap up here because if you don't mind, I don't have a Dasha theme song, so I'm going to use Los Tres de la Habana. Actually, those who watch my program, I kind of get into it. I do a bit of dancing on camera, so when I play it's pretty cool.
You don't do the Trump's little the.
Well, he's actually they have the cartoon. They have the Trump dancing on the screen, so it's pretty cool. They've met Eric Trump.
He reminds me when he does that. He reminds me of Caddyshack, the little groundhog, and at the end of the movie. That's what he reminds me of. He's funny.
Oh, he's hilarious. And I love watching him dance to YMCA. That's pretty awesome too. But if nothing else, the last couple of weeks have been phenomenal. I've been streaming some of his campaign rallies. They're just unbelievable, and I'm gobsmacked. But lots of people saying wonderful things to you here in the chat, Dasha. Just a couple of blessings from New Zealand, from Peter Crutchley again. And lots of people saying great things to you here. Sagan Verity says, I would vote for you if I could. If we had candidates of your caliber in South Africa, we wouldn't be in the trouble we were in. Best of luck. Topsy Kretz had some great things to say here in Pennsylvania, along with some other folks. And so with that, Dasha, I want to thank you for coming back on the channel. I'll invite you back after the election, and I don't want to say when because we don't know when we're going to know the results. And so, and if it went well, then we'll want to get you on quickly. If it didn't go so well, we'll want to wait a little bit longer for the pain to wear off. But we'll get you back on the channel here. Topsy Kretz says, please keep your clothes on when you dance this time, since we have a guest. I do keep my clothes on. He's just trying to be cheeky there. Anyway, Dasha, any final thoughts? And what I'll do is, if you want to hang around, you can at least be able to listen to it, and then I'll send you the link.
Oh yeah.
You'll be able to see me on Zoom. But when I play the song, you won't be able to see the song because you're not watching the show, but you'll be able to hear it. So at least you'll be familiar with it. Anyway, so any final thoughts before we wrap up, and we wish you the best of luck?
Just a real pleasure, and again, see the miracles that come through, even running through this election. I wouldn't have met you if I wasn't out there. So, and it's been a real pleasure. So, and I hope you're going to be at our victory party when we're going to have a victory party, like the real one. So, popping champagne.
Well, cool beans. I mean, if I don't go to your victory party, how am I going to become your national security advisor? So we'll have to work that out.
Exactly. I like that. I like that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Dasha Pruett, candidate for U.S. Congress from Pennsylvania's 5th Congressional District, south of Philadelphia and the southern suburbs of Philadelphia. Thanks a lot, Dasha. I'm going to play the Trump song for my audience because they just love it. And then I'll be back on, folks, again at 3:35 Eastern Standard Time, 9:35 in Botswana and South Africa for the Night Owls edition of Stray Voltage. And we'll talk about a number of topics, news of the day. And it'll be a lekker Freitagnacht, a beautiful Friday. Actually, that doesn't mean beautiful, means tasty, but tasty Friday night. So, Dasha, if I get you to go off the screen, and you've got yourself on mute. You don't have to go off screen. I'll just take you off. I'm going to take myself off, folks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Trump song. You know this well. So I'm going to have to take out my earpiece because otherwise I won't be able to hear the song. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Los Tres de la Habana, the Cuban-American group. This is the English version of that song, which you've heard many times on the channel. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is for the Trumpster. Let's see if we can get this right. And away we go. Come on, where you at? Get back here. Sorry, I'm trying to find my connect. There it is. All right, this is the Trump song. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I will vote for Donald Trump. Shocker, eh? Surprise, surprise. Well, thanks a lot, folks, for joining us today for this special feature with Pennsylvania 5th Congressional District candidate Dasha Pruett, Russian political refugee immigrant to the United States, say a political conservative or Republican running in that district. Best of luck to Dasha, and we'll get back in touch with her after the election. Fingers crossed. Let's hope she gets it to the finish line and gets that seat. Thanks a lot, folks, for tuning in. I'll be back on YouTube here in about an hour and 30 minutes. Thanks a lot for tuning in. God bless, and enjoy the rest of your day. Those who can join us tonight, thank you so much for joining us. What says Topsy-Klutz says, Topsy-Klutz is sharing with people in the audience. Anyway, thanks a lot, folks. God bless, and we'll catch you later. And that's it. Now, I've messed up my entire scenario over here. All right, we'll turn the camera off. The microphone's still on. I'm aware of that. Don't sweat it. I know it's still on. All right, folks, that's it.